Hello guys, welcome back to my photography channel. I am BradM73. Today I want to talk about an issue called, an issue specific to the Nikon D7100 and other cameras as well, but the issue I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit is banding. And what banding is horizontal streaks that go across the sensor, or actually the image, but it's kind of an artifact that's produced by the sensor and the way sensors, scan from top to bottom as they, take an image. And so there have been some complaints about banding issues with the Nikon D7100, and it's something that occurs in other cameras as well. So I kind of just want to look at a couple pictures, and I'm going to go back to picture that I pulled from my D7100 ISO comparison test, where we looked at the image quality at different ISOs. So what I like to do is I'm going to choose one of the images. This was shot at f8 and ISO 100. So we're at base ISO, and I'm going to just open it up in Camera Raw. Come on, there we go. And we'll wait for this to load, and we're loaded. So, the image is fairly well exposed. We can do a little bit of adjustments, maybe cool the color temperature down a little bit. Play around with the tint if we want. I think the tint is actually pretty good. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit auto and see what happens. Okay, it brought the highlights down a little bit and lifted some of the shadows. One thing I do want to do is I actually want to bring the exposure up. For some reason it brought the exposure down, but I want to bring the exposure up so that it's pretty much as shot. And that's pretty close. I think if I bump the highlights, let's see here. I'm going to play around with the highlights just a tad, just to kind of get an image that I'm pleased with. I don't want them, blown out like that, but I want to see here, get right kind of towards the middle. I just want to bring them down a little bit. I think that's pretty good. That's pretty close to what the actual scene looks like to the naked eye. Let's see. We could also bring the shadows down to, as shot, pretty close to zero. And to me, this is a pretty pleasing image, and pretty close to what what it was. What the actual scene looks like to the naked eye. Actually, if I probably bring the color temperature up just slightly. There we go. So anyway, I want to get into the banding issue, and this has to do with banding that occurs in really dark areas of the photo, primarily when you lift shadows. So we can go all the way dark on shadows, we can go all the way light on shadows, and we have the shadows completely lifted, plus 100 on the value, and we're going to zoom into a couple. Come on, I'm going to zoom into a couple areas on this photograph, and hopefully you guys will be able to see there are some vertical bands. I'm sorry, horizontal bands, meaning left, lines going left to right. They're fairly subtle, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the exposure. That's way too much. All right, so we've increased the exposure here, and so hopefully you guys can kind of see the horizontal bands in the dark areas of the photo, especially up here at the top. you know, everywhere that's properly exposed, you don't really see any issues whatsoever. One thing I haven't done yet is I haven't really done any like astrophotography or anything like that. I'll probably do that, some of that, in the summertime, a month or two from now, as I get a little bit more time. Um, so I'm a little bit concerned about that, but so far it's not been a deal breaker for me. So basically, that's what a lot of people are talking about. But if we go back to the auto, actually, let me bring the exposure up just a little bit and bring the shadows, highlights. There we go. Let's see what whites do. It's kind of like brightness, I guess. I'm still getting used to CS6. So a lot of you have probably been using CS6 for a while. Maybe some of you haven't. But yeah, so that's really, in a nutshell, what the banding issue is. I was gonna, let me see here. I was gonna pull out one more photo. Let's see. Get in here. And it was this guy. Now this is a horribly, absolutely horrible. This is a way underexposed image, and it was an image that was shot purely by accident. And I was showing the camera to a friend and happened to hit the shutter button. So there's no composition, no nothing in this photo. It was just a pure accident. So we're going to leave the white balance as shot, and we're just going to hit auto. It's going to lift. Actually, the highlights and shadows stay pretty much right on the center line. It is going to lift the exposure, so I'm going to bring the exposure up a little bit more. It's about 3.5 maybe, and that's to kind of get the recovery of the image back. So obviously it's not really a usable picture, but I just wanted to kind of do this to illustrate to you guys where other places where banding could occur. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring these highlights down right at 90. It should be a pretty good value. That's going to give you pretty close to what the human eye could see. Now we have a little bit of vignetting possibly down here. I mean, it could just also be the underexposure. But if we look, let's see here, over here on this side, we are getting a little bit of the horizontal banding here. And then let me move over here to the darkest part of the image, and hopefully you guys can see this. Actually, let me just go ahead and blow the exposure all the way out. And there's definitely some horizontal banding. I can see some right there. But just to go back to the default, it's pretty much a black image. It's there's hardly any information there, and so this is just kind of gives you an idea of what the banding issue is with the D7100. It's not really a deal breaker as far as the camera is concerned. So if you're out there thinking about buying a Nikon D7000, or I'm sorry, D7100, if I've said D7000 a bunch of times, I apologize, because my previous camera was the D7000. But no, if you're thinking about buying the D7100, I haven't personally run across any issues that where the banding has caused any type of major problems. And I haven't heard any major super major complaints from people who have. So as long as you get your exposure correct, I don't think you're going to have a problem. And this was a pretty long well, actually, let me go back to okay, I wanted to go back to this last photo here. We're just going to open this up in Camera Raw. Oh yeah, I just wanted to show you, this is a 6-second exposure. So, it's a pretty long exposure. There's a little bit, like I said, there was a little bit of banding up there, but at zero exposure compensation here, the blacks are pretty much exposed, and you're never gonna I mean, let's just zoom way in here. Actually, let me go up here because we can actually see some few stars up here. Um, I actually do just ever so barely see some banding. So hopefully that's just a firmware problem, or firmware issue that they can address in the future. But if when you look at the photo as a whole, it's not really noticeable. So aside from that, like I said, I don't think it should be an issue where uh, it should keep you from buying the D7100. I'm very pleased with mine, um, in pretty much all the photos that I've taken so far. So, if you're on the fence, I'd say go for it. Pull the trigger. It's a really good camera, and I think I may have said it before, but it's truly everything that I wanted in my D7000. So this is kind of a look at the banding issue and how we can identify it. And there you have it, folks. So if you guys have any questions or comments, please definitely leave them in the comments section below the video. And if you like the video, please give me a thumbs up, please, please, please. And if you want to subscribe, please subscribe. I plan on doing some more video reviews and tutorials on the D7100 in the future, as they present themselves. So thanks again for watching, guys. Hopefully you made it all the way through with me, and I really appreciate you guys watching. Once again, I am BradM73, and I am going to say goodnight. So we will see you next time. Bye for now.